Hello everyone, and welcome back to Crochet Basics with Cam. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to crochet a chain stitch. Now, in my very first Crochet Basics video, I showed you guys how to hold your yarn and how to make a magic circle. So if you don't know how to hold your yarn, check what size hook you need, or hold your hook. Go ahead and check out that first video, because today we're going to get right into it. So for this, again, you need your yarn, a hook, same size hook that your yarn calls for usually, and you actually don't need a stitch marker, so you're just doing chains. So let's start out. Take the end of your yarn, hold it like I showed you in my first video, and we're going to start with a slip stitch. So, I actually like to start my slip stitches before I put my yarn on my hand. Some people do it differently, but I'm going to show you how I learned how to do a slip stitch. So, I'll lay it out for you here so you can see it better. What you do is you take your yarn end on the right side, you cross it over, just like that, pick up your loop, stick 2 fingers through, and then you actually make a loop with the yarn end. So, like that. Make another loop, without crossing this time. So you're going to stick your fingers through the first loop you made, make a loop with the yarn end, and pull that loop through the big loop. And then pull it tight. I'll show you again. You cross, stick your fingers through, grab your yarn, you hold the yarn tail and the bigger piece of yarn, and the yarn that you grabbed, just pull it tight. Now, you might be thinking, this loop's really big, it's way too big for my hook. But with the slip stitch, all you have to do is stick your hook into the loop and pull the yarn tail, and it just shrinks down to the size of your loop. If you pull it too tight, all you have to do is grab the working yarn and pull your hook to make the loop bigger. And when you want to get rid of your loop, you just pull both ends at the same time. Slip knot. So, one more time. It can be tricky sometimes. Cross it over, make a loop, fingers through, grab a loop of the working yarn, the yarn tail, not the working yarn. You hold the working yarn and the yarn tail at the same time, and with the loop that you just grabbed, you pull and tighten. And stick your hook, through the loop and pull to the size you need. Now, we're going to hold the yarn like I taught you. So around your pinky, up and over the rest of your fingers. Just like that. And to make it easier to keep the tension, when I'm chaining, I hold my yarn tail, especially for the first couple chains, since it's kind of too tight to hold it up here. So, all you have to do to make a chain is to go under your yarn, so wrap your yarn around your hook, pull through the loop, and that's one chain stitch. To do it again, up and over the yarn, pull through the loop, up and over, pull through. So that is 1, 2, 3 chain stitches, and they look like a lot like the single crochets that I showed you in my last video, where you can count the stitches just by the V, and again, the loop that is on your hook does not count as a stitch. So let's chain about 10, and then I will show you how to crochet into the chain. There are 2 ways that it's usually done. So, around, pull through the loop, and as it gets longer, the chain, you can hold it here to get a better grip on it, and that just makes it easier. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we have a chain of 10. And I will show you the 2 ways that are usually done to crochet into the chain. I'm actually going to chain 1 more, and you'll see why in a second. So now we actually have a chain of 11. And when you're crocheting into a chain, you actually cannot crochet into the last stitch that you made. Because if you stick your hook through and pull it, nothing happens. You just got a mess on your hook. That's why, if I wanted a row 10 stitches long, I do 11 chains. You skip this first stitch, and you go into the second stitch. Now when we do a single crochet, you go under the V. But when you're crocheting in a chain, you can't do that because there's nothing on the back. So, you skip the first stitch, and you go into the back loop only of the second chain from the hook. This would be the first chain from the hook. This right here is the second. So, the back loop is the side that is farthest away from you. So for me, it's this edge right here. And to do that, all you do is you stick your hook into the middle of the V. Just like that. So here's our V. I'm just going to stick my hook in the middle, and you'll see it's just one side of that V on my hook. Then, to do a single crochet into this back loop, you wrap the yarn around your hook, bring it through just that first loop on your hook. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. And then you go over and under, and pull through both loops. And then right there, you'll see your very first single crochet into your chain. Now to keep going, we already crocheted into this stitch. If you wanted to, you could use a stitch marker just to visualize where your first stitch is, but it's not necessary. I personally do not. But as you can see by this part right here, we already crocheted into this loop. So we're going to go into our next one, this V right here. Stick our hook through the middle. So we just have this back loop on our hook, 2 loops, pull your yarn through, 2 loops again, you pull through both loops. So now you've done 2 single crochets into your chain. Let's keep going until we get all the way down. We just did the stitch, now we're moving on to this one, and here, go right into that gap. We just have the back loop on our hook, 2 loops, 1 loop. Go again into this gap, yarn through 2 loops, over under, 1 loop. And then here's our last one, right where our slip knot is down here, just before the slip knot. Stick it through. Have just the back loop on our hook, pull the yarn through, so we have 2 loops, over under, 1 loop. And then that's what it looks like when you crochet into a chain. So this will count as 2 rows. The chain is your first row, and this is your second row. So you have, this is our first single crochet into the chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, looks like I actually have 11. Because I think I did an extra chain. So, that is the first and the easiest way to crochet into a chain that you made. Now I'm going to show you another way, which I think looks better, but it is definitely harder. So it's not necessarily the most beginner-friendly method. I'm going to chain 11 again, just to make sure that those bumps aren't super loose. So I made my slip stitch, hold it tight, holding my yarn like I showed you, and holding this yarn tail instead of right on the knot. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, to do this method, you chain exactly the same way, 1 more extra than the amount of stitches that you want to have. Your pattern will always tell you exactly how many to chain. Then, instead of crocheting into the back loops, we are going to crochet into the back bumps. So, as you can see the stitches based on the fact that they are V's. So to do this way, you're actually going to turn your chain around so you're looking at the back. And it can be very hard to see, so I'm going to zoom you in a little bit. So this is the front of the chain. You're going to turn it to the back. And then these loops right here are what we're going to crochet into. So, just like we did for when we were crocheting into the back loops, we're going to skip the first chain from our hook. And we're going to go, we're skipping this one, we're going to this one. So we turn it, and it's this right here that we're going to crochet into. It's easier to do it this way if you're chaining looser, so if you're chaining so that your stitches are a little bit bigger looking. So we're still going to go with a single crochet stitch. So we're going to go under that back bump, pull up a loop, turn over, pull through 2 loops, and we have our first single crochet. Go on to the next one, right here, this V stitch. Well, it's not a V stitch, a stitch that looks like a V. Turn over, this is the back bump. Right here, I'm tugging on. Go under. This is where I like to use my index finger to kind of pull the yarn over my hook. Pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. Same thing with our next one. Back bump, stick it under. This is why I said it's a little bit harder for beginners, because you have to be able to find the back bumps, and it can be hard to get your hook through them. Once you got it down, it's just a matter of finagling your hook through the bump. There we go. Through the back bump, pull up a loop, turn over, and pull through 2 loops. Just do the same thing all the way down. And this method does also take a little bit longer than just going through the back loop only instead of the back bump. But I think that it makes a cleaner looking edge, which I will show you once we have made it all the way down the chain. And then whichever method works best for you or you think looks better, that's what you can do. And that's the beauty of knowing both ways. You get to choose. So we have 2 more back bumps here. 1. And then the one I always think is the very hardest is this first one, because it's super tiny. Right there. So I'm just going to try and actually loosen it with my thumb a little bit. Make it easier to get my hook through. And use my trick where I use my index finger and my nail a little bit to get the hook under. There we go. Loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And you have this. So I just think that compared to the back bump method, this edge looks a lot cleaner. So if you turn it this way, you still have all the V's, and this way you still have all the V's. So whichever method you think looks better, or whichever is easier or works better for you, do that one, but I do recommend that you try both. This is what the back looks like, and this is the front. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 single crochet stitches in our chain. If you wanted to keep going with rows, most patterns call for you chaining 1 before you turn and go back. So just like I taught you to chain, you go that, pull up a loop, and then you turn so that you're facing the back of the work. And then you're going to go just into these single crochet stitches the same way that we did in the magic circle. Your first single crochet stitch is right here. This one right here is our chain stitch, so we're not going into that one. So it's really the second stitch from the loop, this bigger V right here. We're going to go under both sides of the V, pull up a loop, so you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through both. Under the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Under both sides, so it looks like you have 3 loops on the hook. Pull up a loop, pull through both. All the way down. So now we actually have 3 rounds. So we have the first one where we did the chain, the second one where we did our crochet into the back bumps, and then this third row right here. And then you just chain 1, turn, and you keep going for however many rows it calls for in your pattern. And that's it. So I hope this tutorial was helpful. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have any questions, and also let me know what other crochet basics or harder crochet tutorials you guys would like me to make. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!